I want to cut back to the bit you talked about outsourcing, and I get the fact that outsourcing should be looked at as, one of the advantages of outsourcing, especially alternative investments, is that you know what you're in for. So you know what your, what your outlay is going to be, and you get someone else to deal with the regulations. But what advice do you have, whether you're using outsourcers or not? How do you manage, how do you account for, and how do you prepare for those extra costs of managing funds through regulation? Even if it is through outsourcing, you still have to budget for it. So what advice do you have for the managers that have to budget for and accommodate these escalations in costs?
It's an interesting question because, of course, you're talking about trying to predict what if we go back, when did it 2009, they came out with Dodd-Frank. And let's take your question. Let's predict the cost of complying with Dodd-Frank. Well, as we all know, like I said, I'm wont to say, when you talk about regulation, it's like something that's written in pencil because it gets erased, it gets changed, and that predictability is very difficult. But how do you run a business without trying to do something is really the issue. And I would say a couple of things. First of all, the sooner the better. Don't try and ignore it. I think a lot of times that you'll find in our industry, well, gee, if I don't do anything for a while, eventually this will get repealed, or this will get changed, or this or that or the other thing. We tend to wait. No discredit to anybody in the industry. You've got your current clients, your current things to deal with. Trying to deal with what is it going to cost me for this piece of legislation, which, by the way, no one's interpreted yet. But really, you have to take a step back, and the sooner the better. The next thing is do it at an enterprise level. Rather than having 10 people, each in different silos, dealing with the implications of a Dodd-Frank or a Basel III, how can I consolidate that work and get it done more effectively? Because I'm now, again, looking at it at an enterprise impact level. That's another way to deal with it. If you deal with outsourcing, as you started the question with, one of the pluses of outsourcing is, let's face it, regulation applies to everyone. So your outsourcer is going to spread the cost of regulation across amongst all the clients. Have a good relationship with your outsourcer such that you're in there early, hearing their discussion about the impact, providing your input if you think that there are things they're missing, and then getting some of their estimates up front, because of course your individual costs for them could go up based on that, but at least you know up front. And the other, like I said, the advantage of outsourcing is hopefully if it's $1 million, if you do it, it's $1 million. If the outsourcer does it across 10 clients, that's $100,000 each. So that's another thing, if you outsource, is get in there early, and hopefully you're talking about a distributed cost as opposed to an individual cost. So enterprise level, look at it early, don't put it off. Work closely with your outsourcer if outsourcing is what you're doing. And a corollary to the outsourcing is if you do things in-house, but you're working with vendor solutions, the same thing you would do with your outsourcer, do with your vendor. And there again, they sell their product to multiple versions of you. The cost should be distributed. You get in there early, you have a say, you understand that the vendor's projecting it's going to cost them $5 million to upgrade their product. It's going to take 18 months. You now can also plan better. Okay, what do I do in those 18 months? The first 6, nothing's in effect. I've got no problem. But then I've got 12 months where my vendor said I'm still going to have to wait, and there are things that are coming online. But at least then what you're doing is you're devising a temporary solution that hopefully can be cost effective, and you've got to be of the mindset that I'm going to throw it away. But it's still more cost effective than building big solutions to it. So those are some of the things that we see when we talk to clients about the regulatory, and even when they're outsourcing.
So